Dave Palumbo with RxMuscle.com. I am here with Chris, the technician, Aceto, and Cedric McMillan. We are here in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and we're about to do the preview for the IFBB Pro Arnold event here that's going to be taking place in the next, on Saturday, that is. Cedric, we haven't seen you in a while. You look like you gained about maybe 50 or 60 pounds. What are you over the 300-pound mark at this point?
Yeah, I'm right there at it. The main thing is trying to not put on any excess weight. So right now we're up and down right at the 300 mark, though.
You look great. You brought the crowd down in Moscow, Russia, a few weeks ago. You must have been pretty excited about that.
Yeah, you know, who would have thought it, right? Country-ass boy from South Carolina,
in Moscow,
all the way in Russia, you know, and yeah, you know, so especially with the U.S. sanctions going on, they were still happy to see me, you know. So
well, you're military, so
yeah, I didn't tell them.
You didn't tell them.
Yeah,
okay.
But one thing I do want to say before we start this is that we were here 3 hours waiting on Dave Palumbo, and guess what? He got stuck in traffic.
Now, so maybe that makes your story a little more believable.
Yeah, so let's rewind a little bit to last year. It is possible to get stuck in the freaking traffic here in Rio, right?
I've never seen, Chris, traffic like this in my life. It was only like 15 kilometers. It took us 2.5 hours. And you know what? I take my hat off to Cedric.
How angry was I, Cedric? I'm like, where's Dave? Where's Dave? Because we've been here like 1 hour and we were stuck in traffic.
Am I actually disqualified from the competition?
No, you're disqualified from the interview.
From the interview.
Matter of fact, you need to leave.
I'm going to ask you about that alligator tooth in a minute. Now, let's talk about this show, because this is going to be one of the best. Well, I think it will definitely be the best Arnold Brazil of all time, because the lineup is very stiff. It's got a lot of competitors in it. John Dela Rosa, coming off a second place at the Orlando show 2 weeks ago, has got to be considered one of the favorites, along with a couple other guys here. Obviously, you're prepping him. Cedric's jealous about that, but you are prepping him. Tell me a little bit about what John is looking like now, and how will that be different from what we saw 2 weeks ago? I
mean, this is the show that he was prepping for, so I think the extra 2 weeks, surprising to me, has given him a little bit extra time to lean down even a little bit more and somehow fill out. He's extremely round, and no doubt about that this look would beat the look 2 weeks ago. So that I feel is a given. Where it will place him in the show, you know, that remains to be seen. Having said that, you know, I always look at a bodybuilder that I'm helping, or anyone, like, you know, well, what would it take to beat that? It'll take a lot to beat him.
Cedric, are you going to give many of your classic Cedric McMillan poses? We were trying to name a few of them before, like the Atlas pose and the what'd you call it, the puppeteer pose?
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, when we were looking at him in the room, I told him a few little things, and even me and Chris was talking on the way over here about some things that he may be able to change that may help him out. Now, you know, and everybody's saying, oh, Cedric and his posing is amazing, but guess what, Chris, and you guys can, on your website, on the forums, maybe even like a year ago, people saying, oh, fucking Cedric and his poses, he needs to quit that crap, and you know, he needs to pose like everybody else, you know. So now,
after you told him what Arnold said to you about you're the only one who said hit the poses, now everyone thinks you're an expert.
So they're jumping on the bandwagon, you know. But I will say this, you know, because I haven't seen everybody, you know, but I've seen John, and I've always appreciated his physique. You know, he has an amazing shape and amazing structure, right? And he looks like he should be a 212 guy, but somehow he's too big to be 212, you know. And when he took his clothes off of Chris, all I can say was damn, because he's so full and so round. I mean, like I told you, I say he's stupid full. He's like stupid round. You know what I'm saying?
That's what he needs.
Yeah, and it's to the point where, but the graininess is even more so than it was last week. You know, because
what do you think about the new guy? I call him the new guy because not many people know him. We've seen him in Australia play second. William Banach. From the Netherlands. He started as a 212 guy last year. He winds up in the open class, and now he's a threat to win this whole thing.
Yeah. And I gotta give him some respect, because my wife is from the Netherlands too, you know. But he has a really good physique as well. He's got that kind of physique that'll sneak up on you. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll look at him and see him, and oh, he looks like a short guy, right? But then he takes his shit off, you know, and he hits his poses, and he looks like my one word for, like, I always have a one word. What do I think of when I see somebody? And my one word when I see him is dense. He has a very dense physique, and when he hits his poses, it's like his body from front to back just goes on forever, you know, because he's so thick. You know,
you got a country wife. How'd she come from the Netherlands?
Yeah. Well, she's country now because I made her that way. You know what I'm saying?
All right, I see. William Banach. You know, we talked about him on the Heavy Muscle Radio show. That it seems to be one of the guys that could win this event. We haven't seen him since the Australia show. If he comes in like he did in Australia, maybe even a little better, is he too hard to beat?
Yeah, he's the most dangerous guy for me in the lineup. I mean, there's more, quote, established names, but I think they have lots, they have flaws to their body, which we can get to what are their flaws. But, I agree with Cedric that he's dense, he's hard. He's got to have confidence coming into the show simply because, he beat big names in Australia. And out of all the people who I think of in the lineup, I think he's more dangerous than any of the other, quote, top names.
He's got freak factor, and freak factor helps on stage a lot.
He's got scare factor, meaning, there's some bodybuilders in the show. If I was competing, I try to put myself in like someone I'm helping shoes. So-and-so doesn't scare me. This guy scares me because I haven't seen him next to other people.
Right. We talked about two small guys. There's two big guys in this lineup that are very dangerous as well. Juan Morel being one of them. He's beaten John Dela Rosa last year at the New York Pro. He beat him, I believe, I don't know if did he beat him in Hartford? No, John was in Hartford. What do you think about Juan Morel's chances of winning this event?
First of all, I got to say, I love Juan Morel's front double bicep because he's so wide across the top. I love that, and his waist is so small when he hits that pose. I really like Juan's physique. One word, he's got that grainy skin. It looks ridiculous, and that makes his,
What's his weakness?
Grainy. Honestly, there's no way I can.
Didn't you once tell me a big guy always beats a good small guy?
Yeah. I will say a good big guy will beat everybody, But listen, here we go. So when I look at Juan Morel's physique, I can't look at him alone and say this is what's wrong with him, right? Because we have to have something to compare him to. You know what I'm saying? So we look and say, okay, well, he doesn't have this like this guy, that guy. When I look at Juan, to me, he is one of those guys that I believe has a complete physique. What is he missing? He isn't missing anything. He has a good physique, I think.
Why does Juan Morel not beat John Dela Rosa and William Banach here, or Willie?
I think they're thicker than him. I think they're thicker than him from several angles, and I think both absolutely. Listen, for sure, Banach and Dela Rosa's quarter turns. The other guys can't compete in this lineup with him. That's my opinion.
Yeah, let me add this to it then. Okay, so Chris says he's not as thick as them. I would even go as far as to say this: he doesn't appear as thick as them.
Right. He's obviously heavier than them, but right, he's just not.
So they all have the same amount of thickness, but the fact that the height difference makes them look like they're even that much more thicker. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
What about Steve Kuklo? Because Steve Kuklo seems to have a complete physique. We haven't seen him nail conditioning, however. Where we said, wow, that guy's grainy hard. Even when he won the Dallas Europa Super Show last year, it was questionable.
Yeah, I think he'll get on the back shots. He gets lost against some of these guys, and I think that where we talk about Banach with the freak factor, and I know Dela Rosa is thicker than Kuklo. He struggles to keep up, and I think if we talk, yes, he has the reputation, which he does have a good structure. I think Juan has a superior structure, so
yeah, I do too.
Juan's being in the lineup makes it hard for Steve, and then you bring the height level down, and you have like a Banach freak in there. It either puts him first, which I don't think he's going to be, or you got to relegate him to below these guys.
Yeah.
Or fourth. We just named him.
Kuklo.
Yeah, fourth. So I think he is going to struggle.
All right, here, let me throw a wild card out there. A guy who might have the best structure in the whole show, who might have the best freak factor, but never brings the conditioning level. Working with Dennis James now, Lionel Bayeki.
I absolutely love Lionel Bayeki's physique. I've loved his physique for about 3 years now. Ever since he turned pro, the first time I laid out on him, I love his physique. I can also embrace him with the fact that people say, oh, his conditioning is an issue. You know what I'm saying? And like we can rewind back maybe 15 years, and there was some beautiful physiques out there, and the conditioning level was nothing like what they require now. And sometimes in some cases, like if we name some legendary physiques that maybe had to get as dry and as super ripped as they require now, maybe those guys wouldn't look as good or wouldn't be as round and stuff. So before I say, oh, he looks good, but I really want to take the time to appreciate his physique first, because you can't deny he has beautiful shape, and he has very round muscle. You know, I really love Lionel Beyecki's physique. I also think, you know, a lot of times it can be about like skin texture, right? Because we can name somebody like Juan Morel, and his skin is just as grainy and just as dry looking in the off season, right? You know, and a guy like Lionel Beyecki kind of reminds me of myself, or even like a Victor Martinez, where it seems like the texture of his skin is a little bit thicker, and so that may create the illusion of them not being as in condition as they probably are underneath that skin, you know. So sometimes I think that skin texture plays a factor, where as you take somebody like Banach, where he almost has the perfect skin, just like Ronnie
see
Coleman.
through it.
You see Ronnie Coleman's skin, it's the perfect color, and the texture of it is just perfect, where it's not too grainy that it looks bad. It's just perfect to complement the conditioning as well as complement the muscle, you know. And I think that's what Lionel Beyecki misses sometimes.
Is Beyecki a victim of himself, essentially, and will Dennis James be able to bring out the best in him, or will we see the same Beyecki?
You know, I don't know if he's a victim of himself, but I don't think that he needs to be peeled to win the show.
Even a show like this?
Even a show like this, I think he just has to be in good condition, because I think he has a potential to overwhelm some people, or a lot of the people, and a lot of the shots in the lineup. That said, I'd be okay with him just coming in tight enough from behind. Last year in Chicago, for example, I thought, okay, he's going to win for sure, but it just said he was too far off from behind to have him as the winner. So, you know, some type of happy medium, because I think what we've seen is he's probably tried to peel it down somewhere,
and he gets small,
and then he shrinks, and he's like, where's the crazy flow and shape that he had?
Ruli Winkler had that problem though too.
Yes,
he was getting small and small, and then he came back hard and big. So I don't know, maybe there is a perfect balance for that.
Yeah. One thing I will say is, to me, bodybuilding in its essence is a combination of shape, size, structure, shape, size, symmetry, and conditioning. And you know, nowadays what we do, because it's easy for the eye, and it's easy for your judgment to say, okay, who's the most conditioned, or who looks the grainiest, who looks the driest. We do that first, you know, process of elimination. Okay, that takes away half the guys, you know, more than half. And then let's look at, okay, well now who's the biggest, right? And then we completely forget about, and think about, look at shows in the past, you know, here lately, and you can say, okay, did the guy with the best shape, you know, maybe who was the best overall when you go, you know, with size, shape, symmetry, and conditioning, did the guy that had enough of all of those to win? And really, we don't go by that no more. It's just like, it's who's got the conditioning, who's big. And I think if you look at Lionel Beyecki, you know, we can talk about, his conditioning, right? But to me, his conditioning looks good enough to be in the mix. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we can say, okay, he doesn't have the best conditioning, but back in the day, Munson had the best conditioning of all, right? But you know what I'm saying? But some of the other things may have been missing, you know?
Well, you have a point. Yeah. Fred Biggie Smalls, third place at the Orlando show, the best we've seen him. Where does he fall in this lineup?
I think this is a far tougher lineup than Orlando, and he's going to struggle because we didn't have Kuklo, we didn't have Banach, we didn't have Beyecki, we didn't have Juan Morel. I mean, this is a legitimate, fabulous lineup.
Give me your top five.
Top five, no order.
No, you got to put it in order.
Okay. In order, I go with Dela Rosa, Banach, probably Juan Morel, Beyecki, and then Kuklo.
You got a top five for me?
No, and you want to know why?
Why?
Because a lot of times we all do it, especially Chris, and I had to get on Chris sometimes, because we look at physiques and we compare physiques in a way that it seems like judges don't nowadays.
Right.
The comparisons that we do, you know, we'll break down body parts.
This is the predictions. We don't know what anyone's going to look at until we see him on stage.
Exactly, and what I'm saying is, what I've learned is I'm not going to predict what the hell will happen.
We're always wrong.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to be wrong with you guys.
What, are you wearing the Phoenix, or are you wearing the
alligator? Because it's eating time.
All right. Yeah. On that note, my top five is going to be Banach, Dela Rosa, Morel, Beyecki, Kuklo, and Fred Smalls. We won't know what happens. Check out all the coverage all weekend long, starting on Saturday afternoon. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with Chris, the technician, Aceto, and Cedric, the alligator, McMillan, for RX Muscle.
Being held hostage for another interview that I didn't want to do, but I had to.
.com.